How are you?
Sir, all good.
Great. So we are meeting after anyway, it's always last time we had been talking about our basic sense of understanding about the questions of existence and the kind of philosophy that emerged while too much interrogation of the very essential questions of existence. So, today I shall be focusing on two of the philosophers in brief, especially Soren Kierkegaard and Martin Heidegger, to introduce you to the kind of existential dilemma they were having. They were having. It's quite interesting to see that Soren Kierkegaard was a theist existentialist, means he believed in the existence of God, he believed in God, theist. Whereas Heidegger seems to be, though he claims not to be an existential writer, but he's an atheist with strong overtones of existential concerns. Existential concerns. So let us try to touch these two philosophers and let's try to find out what do they have to offer, what do they have to say, and what do they opine in that way. So Soren Kierkegaard, as I said, a theist existentialist, a Danish philosopher, Danish. And if you remember in my previous talk, while referring to Hegel's absolute system of thought, you remember that? Yes? Do you remember?
Yes, sir.
So he opposed that idea. He, I mean, on the one hand, he's a theist philosopher, he's a theist existentialist, yet he opposed the idea, the Hegelian idea, as far as the concept of absolute is concerned. So he conceived absolute essence, God, substance, form. He conceived these as proposed by Hegel and other various philosophers, and he conceived these, especially Hegel, to be the greatest enemy. To be what? The greatest enemy of mankind as far as authentic experience is concerned. In the previous talk, I had given you these terms, authentic experience, genuine experience, personal experience. So the very idea of absolute essence, form, substance, they themselves are great impediments, obstacles, as far as the realization of one's own authentic experience is concerned. And Soren Kierkegaard, theist philosopher, he simply didn't believe in a general concept of absolute, in a general concept of essence, general concept of form and substance. General, I'm saying that is not meant for all, and we can't force and ask all to believe in what I believe in. If I believe in God, it doesn't mean that all of you would believe in God. If I believe in absolute, it doesn't mean that all of you would believe in absolute. Right. So he says that as far as believing in absolute is concerned, as Hegel believed in, or essence or form or substance, that can be done when one thinks of oneself in terms of living. But when one thinks of oneself in terms of existence, in terms of what? Existence. Look, I don't merely live, I exist as well. Living and existing are two different things. Everybody lives. Huh? Yes? Everybody lives. But the kind of living that is colored with the concept of existence, it makes all the difference. So, according to Kierkegaard, man doesn't only live, man exists as well. And this emphasis on existence, in a way, brings him under the domain of existentialism. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. He says that any kind of objective approach, God is there, so I say God is there. And you say that Sir is saying God is there, so God is there. So, just 1 second. हाँ सर प्रणाम. Hello, am I
Yes,
audible?
sir. Yes, sir, you're audible.
So, objectivity is not needed. There must not be any objective approach. And if he says no objectivity, it means subjectivity, subjective experience of knowledge. And this subjective experience will lead to, just 1 second. ये सब बच्चे हमारे ना, so this subjectivity is important, and he was against objectivity or any objective approach. And this, according to him, is is an obstacle, as far as existential realization of truth is concerned. No objectivity, subjectivity is required, right? He also believes that genuine philosophy, authentic philosophy, is extremely personal. It means if I believe in God, it's my subjective experience. If I believe in soul, it's my personal experience, subjective experience. And I cannot say that, look, if I believe in soul, you all must believe in soul. If I believe in the story of Adam and Eve, if I believe in the concept of original sin, I believe it. I must not coerce you to believe what I believe, right? This is an important thing. And this idea is very radical in the sense that whatever we have been talking and thinking in terms of past, it's all community based, society based, or general public's common sharing base. I mean, if it has been said that, look, Bible, Gita, and Quran, they talk about God and they talk about somebody who is beyond our perception and above all. So everybody has to believe in it. But he is saying, theist philosopher, theist, that look, authentic philosophy, genuine philosophy is extremely personal. So I believe in God. You don't have to believe in God at the same time. Your personal experience is more important. And this is existential. This is the affirmation that, look, I exist because it's my perspective, it's my thinking, right? And Kierkegaard talks about uh, he talks about his disapproval, is what disapproval of institutionalized version of Christianity. He's against that. that Christianity, religion, is not something which should be given an institution's name. Religion is something which one lives with, right? It's not that, I mean, the very idea that institutional form of Christianity, that is church, is not a good thing. Church is not a good thing. So this is a radical idea, in the 19th century. He also says that, you know, very important, in that way that he talks about how one has the freedom, one has the liberty to choose the course of one's own life. Though he proposes three main ways of life, three main paths of life, three main planes of life, but it's merely a proposition. This is not hard and fast. But again, these three ways and planes of life are maybe sufficient. What are they? The first way which he um, suggests is the aesthetic plane, aesthetic way, aesthetic mode, and which he terms in terms of pleasures. Pleasures that could be physical, sensual, carnal, that can also be intellectual pleasure at the same time. So, aesthetic plane. Second is ethical plane, ethical way to live one's life. And this he terms in terms of certain sets of moralities, duties, responsibilities, values, principles through which we govern our life, through which we govern our life. So either one goes for aesthetic or one goes for ethical, or the third one is there, religious, that is devotion to God, belief in God. So there's no hard and fast rule that look, only have to go for religion or you have to go for ethical or you have to go for aesthetic. You're free. Because you exist. You exist, that's why you are free, and you're free to exist and you're free to choose. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
This is Soren Kierkegaard. Now let us move to the next philosopher, the atheist one, and yet I told in the beginning that he claims himself not to be an existentialist philosopher. So we have Martin Heidegger, and Martin Heidegger is a German philosopher, He is a German philosopher, and he talks about a very famous German word, Dasein, Daesin, Dasein, which is the equivalent to the English being, right? We have being. Yes, now we have being. Now we are beings in that way. That Dasein is the German equivalent, and he says that this being Dasein is neither absolute in freedom nor it is determined by reason solely. Two keywords: the being of us. It's neither absolute nor solely controlled by reason, which we did discuss in the last class as far as the centrality of reason is concerned, right? He also opines that the human being Dasein inhabits a world, he lives in a world, she lives in a world which is made of things and articles, commodities, maybe essences, maybe concerns, essences, concerns, things, articles, commodities, and we all are surrounded. We all are surrounded by these things. It's an interesting idea. Just try to understand what is he trying to convey. We all are born with a body, with a being, sense of being. But as we grow old, as we grow mature, what we do we think about our being? Do we think about our body? Or we think more about the things which we have gathered? Maybe gender, maybe religion, maybe caste, maybe reason, maybe laptop, mobile, books, family, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, daughter, son. You just give a big list. You can go for a big list. So we all are surrounded by what he says, things and articles. Things and articles. And we, the human beings, care for them, worried about them, we are concerned about them, and this caring, this concern, this caring, this concern puts us into troubles because of the fear to lose. Wasteland, I can show you fear in the handful of dust. Concerns. We are afraid of losing. mobile phones, laptops, family, the extra supplementary forms of identities which are not needed at all. In order to have our realization, we need to have only with ourselves. That's me, my own existence. But we simply grow and we simply care for some things which are not necessary at all. This is a very radical idea. We are talking about Heidegger. We are talking about philosophy. तो थोड़ा सा आपको अजीब लग सकता है, शायद न भी लग रहा हो, अच्छी बात है, राइट? सो वी केयर बिकॉज ऑफ द फियर, हो जाएगा, टूट जाएगा, हाँ, कोई हमसे दूर हो जाएगा, हाँ, हमको चोट लगती है तो फिर स्कूटी से जा रहे हैं, चोट लग गई तो फिर स्कूटी को क्या हुआ? स्कूटी ठीक है ना? हाँ, महंगा एप्पल का फोन आपने ले लिया, एप्पल 12 वाला, गिर गया, अरे राम, तो गिर गया, अब क्या होगा? लाओ पोछो उसको, साफ करो, धो, तो स्क्रैच नहीं पड़ना चाहिए, भी नया नया फोन है, हाँ, ना, बोल नहीं रहे हैं सब,
Yes, sir.
Yes,
हाँ,
sir.
ठीक है, तो अच्छी बात है। सो वी केयर फॉर देम, हाँ, एंड a human being a days in is too much obsessed with the world. हमको जीना है, हम मरेंगे नहीं, हमको मरना भी नहीं है, हमको बहुत सारा काम करना है, बहुत सारा पैसा कमाना है, घर बनाना है, और पैसा बहुत कमाना है, पता नहीं क्यों कमाना है? बैलेंस, बैंक बैलेंस हो, भले आप शुगर के मरीज हो, आपको अस्थमा हो, आपको बीपी हो, हैं? आप कुछ न खाते हो, लेकिन आपके पास पैसा बहुत होना चाहिए, गाड़ी हो खूब बड़ा बड़ा, हैं? एक नहीं, दो नहीं, चार चार गाड़ियां हो, वो भी महंगी वाली गाड़ियां हो, हैं? Too much we are too much obsessed with these things. We are too much showy. We are too much hypocrite. Remember? Baudelaire, you hypocrite, my friend, my peer. Huh? Unreal city. Unreal city. Right? So, we are this. And this obsession, this desire, leads human beings to commit errors. 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 Judgment, एक तरह का ये हमर्शिया भी हो सकता है, चाहे किंग लीर का हमर्शिया हो, चाहे ओथेलो का हमर्शिया हो, आप देख लीजिए, हैं? चाहे ओडिपस का हो, चाहे मैकबेथ का हो, चाहे हैमलेट का हमर्शिया हो, एरर है कि नहीं? हमारा सबका एरर होता है, बिकॉज दे ऑल आर थिंकिंग समथिंग that is beyond their existence. Anyway, that's a very philosophical thing, but this leads to the errors. Rather, our whole life is in errors. Our whole life, because of the misjudgment, because of the lack of true knowledge, because of the true understanding of life, true meaning of life, because of our unnecessary attachment to the things which are not at all concerned with us, as far as authentic existential realization is concerned, right? So he says, manage obsessed, and then this leads to the error. Rather, his whole life is error. And in the process, the being, the design becomes somebody else. It's not he. No, it's not I. I in the single inverted comma, I become something. I become somebody. I become them. I become they. I become. Are you getting the idea? There is no I, the real I. I is what your religion says. I is what your caste says. I is what your gender says. I is what your family says. I is I is what your society says. I is everything. I is everything except your personal I. So this is very again a very important thing. And when I is not I in the real sense, can there be any possibility of authentic existence? The answer is no. The answer is no. So, according to Heidegger, then, according to Heidegger, death is the only clue. Difficult idea, very difficult thing to capture, to grasp. But he says that death is the only clue to the authentic experience. And you can talk about death not as a physical death. We can take this death as a kind of when we are in suffering, when we are in disease, when we are alone, when we spend some times with ourselves all alone, what we call quality time nowadays. Ne? Huh? So until and unless we remain with ourselves, irrespective of, independent from these things, goods and articles, only then we can talk about, we can understand what is real I. This death is not metaphorical. You cannot experience with death, but at least you can go to the death when you simply remove yourself, when you abstain from these things, goods and articles, these societal structures, right? So it's very interesting. And he says that uh, when we see people, as Mahatma Buddha saw an old man, a leper, a shaman, and a dead man, dead body, only he could feel, na? Only he could see. But Heidegger says that this is not sufficient. Instead of learning from, instead of having the sense of existence from somebody else's, it is better to have that self same disease, suffering. It's not disease in that way कि चलो तुमको कोरोना हो जाए, नहीं ऐसा नहीं है. Suffering is important. No, without suffering, without being isolated, without being just close yourself in a room for, अभी आप 5-6 महीने बंद थे कमरे में, न कोई नया ड्रेस खरीदना है, न कोई नई किताब खरीदनी है, नहीं, नहीं लगा कि ठीक है, 2 ड्रेस से भी काम चल जाएगा. कोई ज्यादा चिंता था कि नहीं आज हमको कौन सा कपड़ा पहनना है? अमूमन क्या होता है कि हर दिन नया कपड़ा पहनना होता है कॉलेज के दिनों में। घर में अरे ठीक है, कौन देख रहा है, यही पहन के चलते हैं। जस्ट थिंक अबाउट इट. So don't take it as literal death, but as a kind of mechanism where we can understand ourselves, right? So uh, this, according to Heidegger, a true existential realization is possible when one leaps in nothingness. Nothing means except your own being. Except your own being, that is the most important thing, right? Because when we are born, we all come alone. In between, we gather so many things. And when we die, again we die alone. So we came with nothing, we go with nothing. Life is nothing, according to Heidegger. We come with nothing, we go with nothing. Life is nothing, according to Martin Heidegger. And then this nothingness must be welcomed, it must be embraced, it must be given proper space. Nothingness means without any external paraphernalia, to have a quality time with yourself. ठंड आ गई है, चाय और कॉफी लेकर के जाइए बाहर, कुर्सी पे बैठिए, लेटिए, सोचिए, परखिए, देखिए. This must be there. A life without affectation, a life without hypocrisy, a life without sophistication, a life without faces, life without faces, public faces, life without mask. If we can do this, then only we can think of, we can talk about our authentic existence. Martin Heidegger. समझ में आया?
Yes, sir.
अब इसी को देखिएगा आप लोग वेटिंग फॉर गोडो में. कुछ भी नहीं है, केवल एक जूता है, वही मोजा पुराना है, सड़ा हुआ. खाने को पिज्जा नहीं है, मूली और गाजर है. कहने को दोस्त नहीं है, बस एक ही आदमी है, एक ही कंधा है. विल डिस्कस, डोंट वरी. एनीवे, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर टुडे. ओके देन.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, Himanshi.